Dr. Hassaan Bokhari is a physician, historian who spends his time in the study and research related to history, politics, and international relations. He's also part of South Asia Times. We welcome him again on his channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dr. Hassaan, how are you doing?
Wa alaikum assalam. Allah ka fazal.
Alhamdulillah. So, long time no chat. Inshallah, it's a new and relevant topic. So let's get straight to the point. There have been
Right.
accusations, over the decades, both between Iran and Pakistani government that each harbor insurgency in their countries. And it's been going on for decades that I know of, right? Then why did Iran all of a sudden felt compelled that they could lob some missiles into Pakistan and attack? Why the escalation at this time?
Well, as I conceive it, it was actually meant for domestic consumption. You see, Iran is locked in a conflict with Israel, but it's a very one-sided conflict. Israel has hit Iran at will, whereas Iran has been singularly unable to hit Israel. For instance, they even assassinated Iranian top nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, and they also assassinated many IRGC commanders in recent days. One was assassinated today as well in Damascus. So there is a sense of frustration in Iran and anger. There was a great terrorist blast at the ceremonies honoring the late General Qasim Soleimani as well. So there was anger in Iran as well, and there was, of course, there was a perception building up that the IRGC, especially, it's no good, and it only minces words, but it isn't doing anything against Israel or against Iran's enemies. So they had to show their vitality. Now, they have done these things in the past as well. And what they did was they just took it out of their playbook and they hit some targets in Iraq and in Syria. Those countries actually cannot respond to any Irani outrages. They are dependent. Their governments are dependent on Iran to an extent. But the difference this time was that Iran included Pakistan in this list. Now, the reason for this, in my humble opinion, is that Pakistani perception has hit an all-time low. The incidents regarding security have multiplied recently, and the government and the people appear quite disconnected. So, Iran probably thought that by hitting Pakistan, and Pakistan is a Sunni majority country, and a lot of people in Iran do some anti-Pakistani propaganda as well on sectarian grounds. So Iran probably thought that they could get away with it. They would just hit Pakistan. Some IRGC commanders, I think, they thought that they would just hit Pakistan, and Pakistan, in its present state of turmoil, wouldn't respond. And they would be able to tell their public that, look, we have hit targets in Iraq and Syria and Pakistan, all of these countries, and all of these countries are harboring Israeli-supported anti-Iranian terrorists, and we are hitting Israel in those places from where Israel was trying to hit us. So it was basically meant for that, I think.
So did they perceive Pakistan as a soft target, considering the current political turmoil in Pakistan? Is that why, they were audacious enough to do this after all these years?
Evidently, evidently they did so. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done this. Basically, everybody knows that the Pakistani security forces are deeply unpopular, unfortunately, in Pakistan at this time due to their involvement in politics. And due to their involvement, there is a sense in Pakistan that a certain popular leader, Mr. Imran Khan, is being hounded by the military unfairly. And everybody abroad knows this as well. It is not very difficult to find that out. And then there is also the economic hassle that Pakistan finds itself in. The last 2 years have been probably the worst in Pakistan's economic history. And you see that whereas the budget, the military budget for Pakistan was around 10, 11 billion 2-3 years ago, now it has dropped to 6 billion, less than Iran as well. Iran's military budget is now more than Pakistan. It's around $9.5 billion. So probably they thought that they could get away with it because Pakistan is in such a terrible state right now. But they were wrong, as we have found out.
So let's look at it from the other side. So why did Pakistan have to react and retaliate? Iran is our brotherly nation. should have been sufficient maybe to actually issue a strong rebuttal, political démarche or something like that. But do you think that Pakistan felt compelled that it had to retaliate and react?
No, Pakistan had to retaliate. There was no other option. See, it starts a ripple effect. Perception is more important than reality in strategic matters. If a perception was being built that Pakistan cannot defend itself, you see that there have been very brazen attacks from the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, a terrorist organization that is being supported, some say, by the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Now, there has been a lot of chatter about it that Pakistan should hit TTP camps in Afghanistan, but Pakistan has never done so. And there's also a perception that Pakistan, in so terrible an economic turmoil and facing India in the east and Afghanistan in the west, that this country wouldn't be able to defend all of its borders securely. And if Iran could fire some missiles in the wilderness in Balochistan, then Pakistan would just let it pass by. But that would have opened the field for Indians and anti-Pakistan elements in Afghanistan to take heart and grow more brazen and launch more activities against Pakistan. And that would have stabilized the country further. So it would have started a positive feedback cycle. Like Pakistan destabilized, then the perception becomes strong that Pakistan is weak. Then the external actors, they bring in more destabilizing factor. The country is more destabilized, and then the perception becomes weaker still. So Pakistan had to avoid that death trap at all costs. And Iran, being a brotherly country, shouldn't have actually done this, shouldn't have tried to take advantage of Pakistan in a moment of weakness. You see, in international relations, we live in a world of nation states. And unfortunately, there are no real brotherly countries. Pakistanis and Iranians, they are brotherly peoples. But the nation states are nobody's brothers. And that is what Iran has shown. That they didn't consider Pakistan a brother state. The Iranian people might do so, but the Pakistani people, they have a very positive perception of the Iranian peoples. But the Iranian state just saw an opening and they did that. And the Iranians, they humiliated the Iraqi government as well. Now, Iraq, it's a majority Shia country as well. It's considered an ally of Iran, but Iran didn't think twice before humiliating that country as well. And we all know that Iraq is not considered a state that can guard itself in these times. So the Pakistan can move down that road as well. This is a nightmare for us who hold Pakistan dear. And unfortunately, Iran actually threw the first stone that could have started the domino effect. So Pakistan had to respond. Now, Pakistan, despite its present turmoil, is much more stronger militarily than Iran. Now, our air force is no match for the Iranian air force. We could have hit Iran much harder and much punitively, and we would have gotten Israeli, American, and even probably Saudi support for doing so.
On our side.
But Pakistan chose to respond in a proportionate manner, and that is what a brother country does. But what Iran did defies any logic. And I guess there were some rogue elements involved in that completely ludicrous decision of hitting Pakistan. And Pakistan had to head back to square the scores. And then we can again come back to the table and talk like brothers.
Absolutely agree with you on all the points so far. One thing that bothers me, right? So as we're talking on Saturday, 20th of January, things are returning back to normal. Statements have been issued by both the Foreign Ministry of Iran, also Foreign Ministry of Pakistan, and both are keen on dialing down the tension. However, Rubicon has been crossed. Do you think there will be any future repercussions because of this? Iran's attack and also Pakistan's retaliation, although they're both trying to dial down the tension, both countries.
I think for the time being, there aren't going to be any problems. The Iranians have got their message. But the Pakistanis must learn a lesson here as well, that even a country considered a brother Islamic country like Iran or Afghanistan will take advantage of our weakness. So the biggest lesson here is don't be weak. Don't create opportunities for other actors to take advantage of your weakness. And Iran is not a threat to Pakistan. But the Pakistanis, they can never, if they love their country, they can never ignore the Indian menace in the east. That is the real threat to Pakistan's security, the long-term threat, the cardinal threat. And we need to start working on national cohesion. We need to start working on rule of law. We need to start working on creating trust between the government and the people if we are to stand up to the Indians to any threat that comes up. And if Pakistan grows weaker still, a time will come when countries like Iran and Afghanistan would again think that they can take advantage of Pakistan, and there might, I really will check myself here. I really will say that I hope this doesn't happen. But there might come a time, if we go down this slope, that one day actors like Iran or Afghanistan are going to take advantage of Pakistan, and Pakistan wouldn't be able to respond. That day might come as well. Iraq, it was not always a tin pot country as it is. Iraq had a very robust security apparatus, but Iraq, now we see in what condition it is. So we don't want Pakistan to become another Iraq, but Iraq isn't bordered by a mortal enemy like India. So if we falter, we will not end up like Iraq. We will probably end up like Palestine, which has been erased from the map by an enemy which wanted to possess its territory and dispossess its people. And that is what Pakistan is facing. So this was a wake-up call. There is no need for chest thumping that, oh, we did that. We just shown Iran who is boss. No, nobody showed who is boss. The Iranians showed that they are immature, that they are not able to fight Israel, and they are capable of making very stupid decisions. Yes. And Pakistan needs to wake up now that even countries like Iran, when they start thinking that they can take advantage of Pakistan, then it's really time to wake up and smell the coffee that what brought us to this juncture, what brought our perception to such a low. Now, the serious observers, they all know that Iran never could have threatened Pakistan, and Pakistan firing 7-8 rocket attacks into Iran is not a big deal, because when you're dealing with India, now that country has a 3 times larger air force than Pakistan, 3 times larger military, 11 times larger economy. So if you want to stand up to India and defend your country, you will have to go back to the place where we were in 2019 when we thwarted Indian aggression, because the people, the security forces and the government all were at one page. Yeah. We have to build that trust again. As Iqbal said, that only the people create the destiny of a nation. So if the people are not in connect with the government, then that country is undefensible. So that is what Pakistan needs to work on right now. This is a wake-up call. No need for chest thumping. We just need to wake up and start doing what's right for the country, what's right for the people.
So let me pivot and talk about something that's been bothering me for a while. So for the past 18 months, when you look at insurgent attacks in Pakistan on the military, paramilitary, police forces, 2 things stand out. One is the frequency of these attacks have increased, and second, the audacity of these attacks, and they're coming more and more inwards away from the borders, right? Why is that? Why is there such an increase on all these insurgent attacks and the audacity of it? They've attacked Air Force Base, etc.
There is a limit to every nation's capability. And in Pakistan's case, we have very limited capabilities. We are a poor country, and we don't have a very large intelligence apparatus like the CIA or even India's. And when we start focusing that intelligence apparatus on political objectives within the country, then the external threats, they get ignored. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but the military leadership has expressed very callous behavior regarding the casualties that the army has taken. Now, very few people in the country know that about 450 Pak army men, not to mention the police, have been martyred in 2023. And that is the highest ratio in, I think, 8 or 9 years. So this is a very alarming situation, and this situation has come about because the terrorist attacks, in order to prevent them, intelligence is necessary. Focus is necessary on eliminating the terrorist threat, on countering it before it materializes. And that is what hasn't been done because our intelligence operators has been busy elsewhere, unfortunately. It has been now, whenever any army, whenever it involves itself in politics, it shirks its responsibility for the security of the country. For instance, let me narrate you an incident. I have been doing a lot of research on the Palestine, Israel, and Arab-Israel conflict. And there is an anecdote that in 1967, just months before the Six-Day War, some Egyptian officers visited Syria, and they mingled with the Syrian military officers, and they said that they reported back upon coming to Egypt that the Syrian officers, they are complete nincompoops, and the Syrian army is in no position to fight. So the reason for that was that Syria had witnessed a lot of coup d'etats in the preceding years, and political loyalties were thought more important in that military, and the professional competence was placed on second or third on the on the priority list. And that is what's happening in Pakistan, unfortunately, in these days, that Pakistani military is focused a lot on the political
Inwards.
sphere. It has actually become a political party, if I may use this phrase, like the sham elections that are going on and the abductions. And even now it's 7:38 in Pakistan, and I cannot open YouTube. I was doing some research on my project related to Palestine, and I wanted to watch a YouTube video, and I clicked and I couldn't open YouTube. So I got a bit frustrated, and then I found out that the reason is that the PTI, the Imran Khan's party, they are holding a virtual public meeting, a virtual jalsa today. So all the social media sites, YouTube, Twitter, they are all down in Pakistan. Now, if the security agencies concern themselves with these matters, then what time and resources do they have left to guard the country? We have already seen this once. The country broke up. Pakistan lost a war against India when the military was deeply involved in politics. And that is, unfortunately, we haven't learned that lesson. And our very professional military is involved in these things. Now, we all talk in Pakistan about how great the BAF is, how great its war record is. Now, we saw today, these days, the episode regarding Iran. But there is one thing that makes PAF so good. PAF has never been involved in politics. So Pak army could be as good as the PAF. And had that day come, there would be no terrorist threats in Pakistan, at least not worth mentioning. And we can see, where we can look back 4 or 5 years, terrorists had also come, terrorism in Pakistan had almost come to level zero.
Zero. Yes.
When the military was busy in doing its professional job. But now the military is doing some other job. And then the terrorists, they know and they have the full field to play in. And unfortunately, the military's cynical use of casualties has only added to the misery. Now, that is why, I guess that is a factor. That is why they don't care how many people get martyred, because they can use them for political capital. And this breaks my heart to say this, but this is the state of affairs of the country. And unfortunately, I am very much dejected about it. And I pray and I hope that this changes fast. Otherwise, the country is going to be facing mortal peril.
You know, when it comes to these terrorists, you know, sometimes they also use the local elements, Pakistani citizens who are disenfranchised, right, for their own nefarious causes. What is the reason for this disenfranchisement in certain pockets of Pakistan, that they actually get attracted to this ideology and then they become a tool to these terrorists? What are some of the reasons for that?
Pakistan is not a very streamlined country. There are regions in which there is extreme poverty, and there are regions in which the grit of the government is very weak. And those regions are very fertile for anti-national and anti-state elements. For example, there are some parts of Balochistan and there are some parts in KPK that are very useful for terrorists in terms of recruiting and stuff. This is a failure of our state because we haven't, in 75 years, we haven't been able to tackle this problem completely. Now, there have been successes as well. If one reads the history of Pakistan, the whole KP was considered somewhat of a rebellious area and thing like that. But this changed, and KP saw great development. And as the development came, the anti-national things, they went away, and KP became as much part and parcel of Pakistan as Punjab is. But we didn't succeed in the tribal areas. We didn't succeed in Balochistan, and that is why we see such anti-national elements springing up in that. Now, state neglect is no justification for anti-national activity, and we must keep this in mind, that God only helps those who help themselves. So these people, they need to work themselves as well, and also the state needs to help them. And in these regions, what I have studied, this is a two-way process. Like, the state isn't helping and the people aren't doing anything either, and they
About it.
just blame it all on the state, and at the end of the day it all results in bad blood and acrimony, and then some fiery youth start doing terrorism. And of course there is the foreign hand involved in this as well, the Indians and even the Americans, and they start doling out money to increase terrorism in Pakistan because it serves their strategic interest, but they find fertile soil in there as well.
Okay, perfect. So you're saying it's a two-way street to actually incorporate them back into the national fabric. The state has to do its job, but people also have to be willing to be able to bridge that gap. Understood. One more thing, all of these terrorist activities in Pakistan, it's not possible for them to be sustained, provided, trained without some kind of state actors behind it. So we can do an entire program in India, so let's put that aside. But when it comes to Afghanistan and Iran, right, do you think there's credible evidence that the governments in Afghanistan and Iran actually support these activities inside Pakistan? How true is that?
Well, the previous government in Afghanistan surely did so. But the present government in Afghanistan, it's a bit of a more complicated situation. I don't think they're actively encouraging terrorism in Pakistan, but they are protecting those people who are actively engaging in terrorism in Pakistan. So in a way, they are abetting terrorism in Pakistan, and they are not checking them in any way, not stopping their supply of weapons. But there have been indications as well that from some low-level Taliban cadres, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP, has been receiving weapons and logistics as well. So we can say that there are elements in the Afghan government who are instrumental in augmenting and sustaining terrorism in Pakistan, and that is a very unfortunate situation. But that's the truth of the matter. When it comes to Iran, there is also a picture that emerges that in Iran there are two streams. There's the conventional streams, their foreign ministry, their army, and their president, and then there is the IRGC stream, the other stream. That is, both these streams are under the command of the supreme leader. Ayatollah Khamenei has this position right now. But the IRGC stream, this is more ideological, this is even more sectarian as well, and this is more hawkish as well. And all Iran's foreign endeavors are controlled by this part of their state. And I believe that there are elements in the IRGC who are, sheltering the Baloch separatists and some terrorists as well. And they are using them as bargaining chips, or as a nuisance value, or just a piece, a pawn in their chessboard. And they do want to keep Pakistan a bit unbalanced. They do want to keep Pakistan a bit under the gun. So they are using these Baloch separatists, and they're sheltering them in Iran. Now, when Pakistan hit the targets in Iran, the Iranis themselves conceded that no Iranian nationals were targeted, because there were these people who were targeted. These people who had fled from Pakistan with the intention of coming back and conducting terrorist activities in Pakistan. So in this way, Iran is also using these proxies for some local strategic game in the region of Balochistan.
So let's now talk about how to counter it. So Pakistan Armed Forces, particularly PAF, it definitely has the capability to strike these targets inside Afghanistan and also inside Iran. However, is that the best solution to actually go and cross the border and strike these targets? So, I mean, how do you stem that? Even Let's say even the government of Afghanistan is turning a blind eye to these activities, not actively supporting it, but turning a blind eye, or elements within Iran who are supporting these activities. How do you stem that support? Because that chain has to be broken for these activities to stop inside the borders of Pakistan. What do we do?
The PAF approach is not very useful here. Whenever the Air Force conducts strikes, there is collateral damage. Collateral damage actually harms the process itself, because you create more embittered families, more embittered individuals who are willing to take up arms against the state. This wouldn't do. The better approach is an internal approach. We have to work on our own country. And if we do that, if we augment our national cohesion, then we wouldn't need to conduct these strikes. Or if we do, we would be very much more effective in them, because in that case, only very few individuals would be taking up arms against us. And it will also strengthen our state, which will deter the governments of Afghanistan, Iran, or other countries to do these activities against Pakistan. The best thing to do is to work on creating a viable identity for Pakistan. Unfortunately, that hasn't been done. Now, the TTP didn't create itself out of thin air. It was basically a product of our own identity crisis, that one day Zia is saying that we are Islamists and we are doing jihad here, there, everywhere. And then comes Musharraf, both military, illegitimate, illegal rulers, by the way. And then comes along Musharraf and he panders to the Americans just like Zia did. But the Americans needed jihad in the Zia era, and the Americans needed enlightened moderation in the Musharraf era. So all it does is to destroy Pakistan's own identity. And a country without identity is an easy target for every and any other country. So we have to work on these things first. We have to create a social contract. We have to create an ideological contract. And then we have to hold fast to it no matter what. That is the only way Pakistan can survive and Pakistan can thrive. There are people saying we should focus on the economy, we should focus on this, we should focus on that, on foreign policy. No. The only thing we need to focus on is to focus on what Pakistan is. And when we decide that, we need to stand fast and we need to say to anybody, be it America, China, India, anybody, that we are Pakistan, we are an Islamic ideological state, and we are going to go on this way no matter what. And then we can tell to the Baloch, to the Punjabis, to the Pashtuns, to the Sindhis, that this is what Pakistan is. And this is the country that we are going to build, and we are all equal here. We are all Muslims here. We are all members of an ideological state. And from then on, we start investing a lot in education, in human resource development, in all areas of Pakistan. And that is how we are going to create a crop of young men and women belonging to all stratum of Pakistani society. They will build this country up, and they will build this country in a secure way, so that no Musharraf or no Zia or no Nawaz Sharif or no Imran Khan, nobody would be able to tell the Pakistanis who they are, because the Pakistanis would know who they are. And then we can say to the Afghanistanis and Iranians that if you start creating facade with these fringe elements, then we will hit you back. And in that case, there will only be a few elements that would be against this ideology, and the whole nation would be united against them. Because whatever you do, every nation in history first it destroys itself from within. And there's a movie, Harry Potter movie, I still remember a dialogue that a main character, Professor Dumbledore, utters, and he says that the biggest weapon the enemy can find is you. He says to his students in that school that he's leading, that you are the biggest weapon that the enemy uses. The people of Pakistan, the disenfranchised people of Pakistan, the people who have been duped, who have been deceived in terms of their identity, those are the people who formed TTP. And those are the people who formed these BLA and BLFs and so on and so forth. If the state stops deceiving itself and stops deceiving the people of Pakistan, and actually we do manage to create a proper viable ideological state, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Okay, so it is, in my mind, it's quite tragic that even after 75 years, we have this Jekyll and Hyde situation where we cannot decide what our identity is. Are we pro-Islam? Are we enlightened, moderated? What are we? And it keeps changing every decade or so. It is quite tragic. I appreciate your time, Dr. Hassaan. Thank you very much. And I hope that, we will talk about some future relevant topics, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.